All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher here with Drew Dinsick. We're going to talk a lot of NBA today, for better or worse. We'll get into everything. But first, the draft is round one is done, mercifully. Drew, what did you make of it?
I mean, we can talk. I'd like to go deep dive into the gambling ramifications in a minute, but I think just from a macro sense, from an NFL handicapping sense, I don't think that anything that happened yesterday moves the needle whatsoever for this upcoming season. I don't think that really any of the kind of high impact players landed anywhere that would really meaningfully change any markets, which is wild to say because, it's with the one exception, and it had nothing to do with the draft, and that was Lamar Jackson signing with the Ravens long term. Like the big winners of yesterday, if I had to, in terms of like market equity, is Ravens championship because they bring Lamar back into the fold and they're now populating that team with weapons around him. So, I think the only thing I can take away from the last month of everything that's happened in the NFL really is that the Ravens now have a much better chance than they would have otherwise. Other than that, I don't think that any of the kind of rookie quarterbacks really moved the needle for me in terms of championship equity, divisional win equity. Certainly we can get into sort of the winners and losers of the draft, and some of the teams that I had aspirational hopes for kind of being excited about in the NFC took steps backwards by drafting running backs in the first round. And then ultimately, like from a gambling standpoint about the draft, I'm pretty tilted this morning. My two major macro theses heading into yesterday were the Texans are ultimately BSing about taking a defender. They're going to take a QB2, and they did. And then the Texans, we sniffed out, I think, that they were trying to get the Titans to commit to trading up to 3 and then take the guy the Titans wanted. We put that together as well. It ultimately, though, was Stroud, not Levis. And I have a lot of kind of, sift through the rubble to figure out how I got so far down the road that Levis was the guy, to kind of figure that out. But even more so, I feel a little gross that I was in any way participatory in sort of the CJ Stroud disinformation campaign. Guy was clearly pretty emotional getting picked second. I felt for him in that moment. That was kind of the only part of the entire broadcast that I really thought was like kind of good. Just seeing Stroud, the relief on his face, getting chosen to after whatever he's been through in the last month, having people trash him and particularly challenges his intelligence. And it was a weird night. I don't feel great this morning. Ultimately, I'll look down a bit on the draft, and losing on the draft is pretty inexcusable because it's an information market. It's not like this was my opinion. But I think just in general, a little down this morning. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm still down from the Milwaukee Bucks, so nothing about the draft is going to lift my spirits. I don't really understand. Yeah, I don't really understand anything that happened around the markets for 2, 3, 4 and what was going on there. Will Levis closed like minus 1,500 to go 4. And there was a wave of money at the death on Stroud 2. And then there was a similar wave on Levis 4. And the steam was clearly right on Stroud 2. And he got to a point where he was basically off the board in a way that Levis 4 wasn't. But still, that was odd. I mean, 10 minutes before the draft, you could bet on Anthony Richardson at like plus 500 to go 4. And that happened. And Levis is still waiting to be picked. So that was odd. I think the biggest takeaway from the draft for me is that Houston, and I said this last night, Houston, they made a quarterback trade for Will Anderson. And that's just the absolute debacle to trade that much equity for a defensive player who is not a Myles Garrett level prospect, at least in my understanding. So I thought that was insane, though. I mean, they could have come out of the draft potentially with Will Levis as well. And I think CJ Stroud is the better pick there. So not a disaster overall, but that trade was. And then the Lions as well. They picked 12 and 18. And I think if they had nailed the first round, we'd be talking about them as an emphatic favorite for the NFC North and, very much justifying their place as a top 4 favorite in the NFC. But now it's, I mean, look, still, it doesn't kill their season or anything. It's 2 players who will be additive, just not as additive potentially as they could have been. But yeah, what did you make of the Lions?
Yeah, I echo your sentiment in almost lockstep. Even trading down from 6, I like obviously they got scooped apparently by the Seattle taking Witherspoon 5, which was again a weird one. And they trade down, they get more assets. It's like, wow, the Lions have really figured this out. And then to use 12 on a running back, which number one was a position of just a true empty calories for them. Like I really do not understand, and wasting draft capital that high on a running back particularly for that team and that roster, and then to turn around and take a linebacker with their 18th pick. Both were head scratching decisions. I thought we had a pretty clear signal from the Lions that they were kind of in the head coach locker room, tough, big, tough, get these guys riled up, get them motivated. But in the front office, I thought they were using pretty heavy analytical tools to make some decisions, and apparently not, because both of the choices they made in the first round flew in the face of, how you want to go about roster building. So did not understand it, did not like it. And then to circle back on your point about the Will Anderson trade for 3, that was one of the worst trades I can remember. Yeah, honestly, definitely. It was brutal. Like that's probably going to be a top 10 pick, maybe a top 5 pick next year in a more well-regarded draft class. The idea of you could have had Marvin Harrison Jr., who plays pretty great with CJ Stroud. Like that wouldn't have been the worst thing if you were, kind of sit tight and just let, take your L's this year, but build something for the future. Like I really don't know why you would give up that type of package for a high floor defensive player. Yeah. And honestly, what it signals to me, and this is kind of why maybe another reason I'm a little down this morning. Like, yeah, like after seeing what happened with Stroud in this whole cycle and then seeing him go second, like I want to cheer for him to have like a successful career. But the idea of the stewards of the Texans franchise being able to execute, build a team around him and kind of help him succeed, I don't have a lot of confidence in it this morning. There was bad decision making. They have, they apparently learned nothing from the end of the Bill O'Brien era, where they're trading away all this capital for, players that ultimately don't really help them win and or positions that don't really matter. So it was very, very, very strange to see the way it all went down. I don't really have expectation that the Texans aren't going to be back in the quarterback market in like 2026.
Yeah, my only read on that is that D'Amico Ryans clearly wanted Will Anderson, I think, and ownership, I guess, wanted CJ Stroud. And the compromise was, we're taking CJ Stroud, but we'll trade everything to get you your guy as well, D'Amico. So bit of a strange one. Offensive Rookie of the Year, quick check-in on this. Bijan Robinson and Bryce Young, the co-favorites at plus 400. CJ Stroud plus 650. Anthony Richardson plus 650. I'm not sure Richardson's even going to start ahead of Minshew. We'll see about that. No real bets for me in this market at the moment. I mean, it's pretty flat. I think the top 3 guys are rightfully the top 3 favorites, but not a ton of meat on the bone at those prices, I think.
Yeah, I see a lot of losing for the Panthers. They need a lot more weapons to compete with Young, even if he succeeds ultimately. I think Bijan Robinson and the Falcons, like there's just too many mouths to feed for him to be, kind of a number one, type of production to get consideration from a running back position. Similarly, I think Stroud and the Texans are going to lose quite a few games this year, and that'll hurt his case. As we go down the board, the name and the number that really pops for me is Quentin Johnson at 14-1. Sure. The Chargers are going to be a much, much better offense, presumably this year with Kellen Moore at the helm. Quentin Johnson has the athletic traits, I think, to where we could get to the end of the season and he's wide receiver 1 on that team, as you have, Mike Williams obviously dealing with some, potential injury situations, and then Allen just kind of at the end of his run here as far as a producer. So Quentin Johnson could put up some statistics that I think impress people, and I kind of like the price point there at 14-1.
Okay, I like it. All right, before we get into the NBA, a reminder to download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in the App Store today. All right, a couple of Western Conference game 6s tonight. Kings, Warriors. Warriors 7.5-point favorites, total 235. And then the Lakers are 4.5-point favorites over our Grizz, total 219 there. Do you have any plays on these games?
I will just say that I did lose a little bit on the draft, which I'm annoyed about. But if the Grizzlies lose this game tonight, this is going to go down as my worst week and worst month of going back probably 18 months. If that hits the accounts, then I gotta clear all the Grizzlies futures out of here. So I'm very, very, very hopeful that the Grizzlies can somehow force a game 7. If they play the way that we saw them play in the fourth quarter, and if the adjustments that Taylor has in his back pocket continue to give them an advantage, then I do believe the Grizzlies could win this game. I played a little bit of money line for the Grizzlies, but it was mostly just out of spirit. I can't make fair money line anywhere close to what the current number was, which was like plus 177 or something, plus 184 right now on the money line at some of the shops here. So that to me is nowhere close to fair. I think this is a pick-em-ish type of game. I need to hit this coin flip, force a game 7, and then we can have some fun with the series bets. But very, very, very hopeful that the Grizzlies can get it done. Do you share any kind of optimism here for the Grizzlies, or are you prepared for the series to be over?
No, I do share the optimism. I think that the Grizz are very live tonight. I think it's a decent bet. I think as well, if you're multiplying out the money lines, there's a little bit of value on the series price as well for the Grizz if you shop around. I think they figured something out in the previous game of just deciding that if they're going down with offense and a space floor and shooting and playing more canard and just having Jaren Jackson anchor the defense, playing more Bane at 4, Brooks at 4, and I think that gives them a better chance to win because it was just too clunky when they were playing bigger. So hopefully they figured something out on that front. The only thing there is that it's just never clean with the Grizz, and Luke Kennard got a shoulder stinger and he's questionable for tonight. Expect that he will go. If he doesn't, I think that actually hurts them more than a Luke Kennard injury should theoretically hurt a team because I think he's become quite important. So if he goes and he's right, then I like the Grizz tonight as well. All right. Before we get into a couple of the other series, every season is draft season. Get your RotoWorld Draft Guide bundle today and dominate your football, baseball, and basketball drafts packed with profiles, rankings, projections. Order today and get all 3 RotoWorld Draft Guides for the price of 2, plus use promo code BERRY and save an extra 20% at checkout. All right, the big one, Suns-Nuggets. Been waiting a while for this one. Very scared. I live in fear of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Nuggets 3-point favorites in game 1, which I think is a relatively positive sign. If you're a Nuggets backer, total 225. I'm heavy on the Nuggets, basically at every price point, mainly to win the West, but also to win this series. How's your optimism about Denver?
High. I'm with you. I think the Nuggets win game 1. I think the Nuggets win the series. I think it's fun to take a couple of swings on the Nuggets winning this convincingly.
Okay.
I think the longer the series goes and the more this becomes, just in general, an ISO type of situation, the more it favors the Suns. Even though I have huge questions about their bench, huge questions about the ability for Chris Paul to stay on the floor and be effective in the series, particularly offensively. And just in general, like, haven't seen enough from them as a unit to this point to think that they ought to be favored in the series. All that said, the deeper the series goes, the more nervous I'm going to be about a Nuggets series bet. Nuggets winning this thing in 5, I can see it. Nuggets sweeping, I can see it. I think those prices are pretty favorable. I'm seeing Nuggets sweep at 14-1, Nuggets 4-1 at plus 550. I'm going to have a little bit of both of those in pocket, but my biggest action is absolutely taking the plus money on the series price here. It's gone against me for the most part. My opinion of this when it opened was that it was going to come closer to a pick 'em as we got closer to tip, and you can still get plus 108 series price out there. So, there's room. The Nuggets, I think, are the better team. Jokic, I think, is primed to, to have the, the series of his life. And yeah, not a lot I can say about the Suns positively defensively. And that's maybe where most of my confidence comes from.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Firstly, I like the sweep bets. I kind of like them both ways, just because the Suns, they're such a high variance team, and they're the team in the league whose market rating is going to adjust the most rapidly. It's fluid in both directions. Like there is a good chance that, if we get to game 5, the line could be Nuggets -5. It could be Nuggets -1. I think it's going to be very fluid. And so when you're talking about the tails of these kind of outcomes, I think that going for extremes is a decent play. I think that people think this is a bad matchup for Denver because of what Phoenix did to Denver in the playoffs a couple of years ago, or specifically what they did to Jokic on defense. And look, I think the Nuggets, I just think they're better now, clearly, with their personnel. I think that the Suns also, it's weird because they have Kevin Durant on their team now, but they also, they kind of have more places where you can hide guys because of the fact that they're going to play so much Torrey Craig, so much Josh Okogie. I think there's also the idea that Ayton is the Jokic stopper. All I know is that I saw Nikola Jokic in a massive game against Brook Lopez absolutely cook Brook Lopez in the post just over and over again. I think Jokic is just completely unguardable. I think he's the best offensive player in the league. Yes, maybe Ayton can put up a bit of a fight so you don't have to outright double team Jokic all the time, but I still think Jokic is going to go off in that matchup. So regardless of the matchup stuff, I just think the Nuggets are the slightly better team, and with home court, I think they should be favored in this spot. And I think we're at the point now where, because Golden State looks so likely to go through, and Golden State's going to be favored in the next round no matter what the matchup is, I kind of like probably betting the Nuggets series more than the Nuggets West at this point, just because of the high likelihood, or not high, but relatively decent likelihood you're going to get Golden State in the next round. And Golden State might be favored against Denver, even without home court, if they continue to look like they have the past 3 games. Okay. Let's talk the Miami Heat. We haven't really spoken about Heat Bucks. Just quickly on that one, like, I don't need to talk about Budenholzer. Like, Budenholzer, that was just the complete catastrophe. It's disgrace. I don't really care about not calling timeout at the end of overtime because, it's off the break. There's advantage situations. It wasn't really a clean time to call timeout. Not calling timeout at the end of regulation, you hand in your papers that night. Like, that is that's malpractice. It's like going to the free throw line and forgetting to shoot the free throw. Like, it was just absolutely insane that happened in an NBA game. The whole team was just completely rattled. They couldn't dribble the ball up a half court or throw basic passes. They were just so nervous. And the fact that happened to a team at home against an 8 seed, but they've already won a title, and the fact that they were still that rattled is insane to me. And honestly, my big takeaway out of that we knew Bud was at a mismatch against Spoelstra.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear anymore that Giannis is the best player in the NBA. I can't hear that anymore because he's not. And I understand he was compromised, but he's not as good of a player in this season as Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic, or I would even say Kevin Durant or Stephen Curry. Giannis, the fact that he can no longer make mid-range jump shots at all, that's a huge problem. He used to shoot 40% on long twos. Now he shoots, mid to low 30s. The fact that he cannot make free throws, and also to me, the thing that people don't bring up, Giannis is not the defensive player that he was in 1920 when he won DPOY. Well, he can't get through a screen, and he's petrified of fouling people because he charges an offensive foul so much on the other end that he just doesn't protect the rim as much. You didn't feel him defensively in that series at all when he was on the court. So that was my big takeaway. Very upset about the Milwaukee Bucks, but hat off to Jimmy Butler. But what did you think at the end of that series, and what do you make of Heat-Knicks?
I mean, the entire series was just confounding.
Yes. Yeah.
A one-man team being able to beat the best regular season team in the NBA is not something you really ever expect to see.
And Kevin Love outplayed Drew Holiday in Game 5 in Milwaukee. Yeah. Kevin Love was a better player.
That'll saying that out loud seems like what year are we in? What reality is this? I think your points about Giannis are the most well taken. His career Darko trajectory, by the way, doesn't look great.
I mean, by EPM, he was like I want to say off the top of my head, like the 8th best player in the league. He was worse than Jimmy Butler, for instance.
Yeah, I don't have a sense of really what's going on with him. You've seen similar kind of aggressive dips in LeBron's Darko at times, but when he's been able to recover. So I'm not ready to really kind of say this impacts his ultimate longevity or legacy in the NBA, but it was very, very, very disappointing. And I think the Heat are a bad team. I think the Knicks likely get this win, even though the best player in the series clearly plays for Miami. It's still the growth you've seen defensively from the Knicks, particularly in that Cavs series, I think is meaningful. They're minus 149 right now. I can see them getting this done in short order. I kind of like under 5.5 games for that series at plus 180. I think I'm taking under 5.5 games in both the Knicks and the Nuggets series in that kind of plus 170, plus 180 range.
Yeah, I don't mind. Again, I think this is a pretty high variance series because of the Heat. They're going to keep shooting 45% from three. Probably not. Is Jimmy Butler going to be as good as he was? Probably not, but he's still clearly the best player. And then Randall also just creates uncertainty in this series, whether he's going to play and what state that he's going to be in. I bet the Heat at plus 140 to win the series. Big prizes out there. I just think, again, that the Knicks, that the two things where the Knicks kill you are offensive rebounding and transition. They've never been, outside of that, they're not a very scary offensive team. The Heat are an elite defensive rebounding team, and historically they've been excellent keeping teams out of transition. I think Spoelstra has the coaching matchup again. I think the Heat, their guys like Kevin Love is going to be able to play in this series, which apparently is meaningful because Love changed the series against Milwaukee. The fact that Duncan Robinson, he's going to be able to play as well, I think. The Knicks, they don't really have like that big wing who can really hunt you. And if Gabe Vincent can hold up against Chris Middleton in terms of strength, then he can probably hold up against Jalen Brunson as well. So I don't know. I'm just sick of this Heat team. I'm sick of cheering against them. I feel like it's been each playoffs, it's the right side to be against the Heat because Butler's ascension and Spoelstra's coaching is just very difficult to capture in the market. But I think they're going to win this series. I think the Bam injury stuff also, I think that's just kind of fake. Like Bam looks, I think that was just reporting because he looked so bad in the series. I think it was mainly just a bad matchup. He looked pretty healthy and explosive to me in Game 5 against Milwaukee. So yeah, I don't feel great about it, but at the current prices, I would take the Heat.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. So we'll have a little head to head on this one then, because for me at least, the Bucks give you better looks at three than you ought to be getting, and the Knicks is the opposite. They kind of get you to take the threes that you don't really want to take. And so I feel like if the entire narrative after this is like a 3-0 series is like what happened to Miami's shooting, I think that's probably what we're talking about. And so yeah, to me, I'm maybe missing something obvious, and maybe Butler's kind of level of play is just that good that he can elevate them. But Knicks for me here.
Okay. Jimmy Butler's not letting you get to 3-0, Drew. He exists on a higher plane come springtime. All right. Don't forget to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Good luck on the weekend with all your bets, and we'll be back on Monday.